Welcome to the Deep Dive, the Theopoetics Edition. We are Dr. Aaron Waldron, founder and CEO of Corvus Cantus, a theopoetic publishing house and creation of Lost Raven Studios. What you're hearing right now is an expansion. The original Deep Dive podcast has been a space shaped and supported by AI, a place where ideas are explored, questions are sharpened, and insight is generated through emerging technology. But this edition marks a widening of that circle. Through our partnership between Corvus Cantus and the Deep Dive podcast, the Theopoetics Edition becomes a threshold space, where artificial intelligence meets sacred imagination, where technology intersects with myth, poetry, theology, and embodied reflection. Here we focus intentionally on theopoetics. We teach, we inform, we remember, we draw from Theopoetics and the publishings of Corvus Cantus, the books, the dialogues, the voices inhabiting the liminal spaces between doubt and devotion, critique and creativity. This is not systematic theology. This is not rigid dogma. This is theology felt, spoken, questioned, reimagined. In a meta-modern age, where we oscillate between irony and sincerity, fragmentation and hope, Theopoetics offers a way forward, not by resolving tension, but by inhabiting it. So whether you are a writer, a seeker, a scholar, or simply someone holding an old smelly box of inherited beliefs, this space is for you. Welcome to the Deep Dive, Theopoetics Edition. Let's begin.
So, I want you to just close your eyes for a second. Imagine the loudest, most chaotic place you have ever been, and then just multiply that by 1,000.
Right.
You were standing on a dusty plain in ancient India. The air is thick, it's hot, and it literally smells like impending violence.
Yeah, that tension right before a storm.
Exactly. On one side, you have this army that stretches all the way to the horizon. We're talking elephants, chariots, gold armor just glinting in the sun.
A massive force.
And on the other side, another army that's just as massive. The sound is absolutely deafening. Conch shells are blowing like trumpets. Drums are beating.
It's the moment before the world ends.
It really is. And right in the center of this hurricane is one man.
Arjuna.
Yes, Arjuna. The greatest archer, the greatest warrior of his age.
He's holding the Gandiva, which is this legendary bow. It's essentially the nuclear weapon of its time.
Everyone is watching him.
Right. They're waiting for him to loose that first arrow. That's the signal to start the slaughter.
But then he just cracks.
He completely falls apart.
He tells his charioteer to stop the chariot right in the middle of the field, in no man's land. He looks across the lines, and you can just feel the adrenaline dump out of his system.
Because he doesn't see a faceless enemy.
No. He sees his uncles. He sees the teachers who taught him how to hold a sword. He sees his cousins.
And it is a total catastrophic psychological collapse.
He drops the Gandiva. He's trembling.
The text is actually very specific here. His limbs give way. His mouth goes dry. His hair literally stands on end. He sinks into the seat of the chariot and says, "I will not fight."
Which is an incredible way to open a book. And that brings us to what we are looking at today. We are doing a deep dive into the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God.
Specifically, we're looking at the translation by Swami Prabhavananda and Christopher Isherwood.
Yes. But there is a kicker to this specific edition. It features an introduction by Aldous Huxley.
Which might seem like a really odd pairing to some people.
Right. I mean, the guy who wrote Brave New World, a dystopian sci-fi author writing the intro to a Hindi scripture from thousands of years ago. What is he doing here?
Well, Huxley was deeply fascinated by something he called the Perennial Philosophy.
The Perennial Philosophy.
Yeah. He believed that if you strip away all the cultural costumes, the specific rituals, the names of the local gods, the regional myths, every major religion is actually talking about the exact same underlying truth.
Oh, interesting.
And he saw the Gita not just as a foundational Hindu text, but as one of the absolute clearest, most systematic manuals for this universal truth.
So our mission today with this deep dive isn't just to recap an ancient war story. We are looking at a guidebook for the human condition.
Precisely. Because the setting is totally intentional. It's a metaphor.
Life is a battlefield.
Exactly. Life isn't always a peaceful garden. It's a conflict. We all face that exact moment where we are paralyzed by a choice, torn between duty, desire, and just pure fear.
But before we get into the really heavy philosophical stuff, we do need to set up the context. Because Arjuna isn't just having a random panic attack.
No, this is the climax of a massive, brutal family feud.
And the Gita is actually just one tiny slice of a much larger epic.
The Mahabharata.
Right, which is unimaginably huge.
The source notes it's about 100,000 verses long. It's a colossal epic.
And the core conflict is between two sets of cousins. On one side, you have the Pandavas. Arjuna is one of the 5 Pandava brothers.
And on the other side, the Kauravas, the 100 evil cousins led by Duryodhana.
And this whole war basically started over a gambling addiction.
It did. The eldest Pandava brother, Yudhishthira, was challenged to a game of dice.
A rigged game of dice.
Very rigged. And he just couldn't stop himself. He gambled away their wealth, their kingdom, his own brothers, and even their shared wife, Draupadi.
A complete disaster,
Yeah.
which led to the 5 brothers and their wife being exiled into the forest for 13 years.
Yes.
Now, there's one specific story from that exile period that we have to talk about. The anecdote of the enchanted lake.
It's a great story. It really shows you exactly who these brothers are.
So, they are wandering in the forest and they are absolutely dying of thirst. They finally find this beautiful, clear lake.
But as soon as they get close, this disembodied voice echoes out. It says, "Stop! Answer my questions before you drink. If you drink without answering, you will die."
And the first 4 brothers, including our mighty archer Arjuna, are so desperate, so completely driven by their physical thirst, that they just ignore the voice.
They drink the water and they drop dead instantly.
Then Yudhishthira, the eldest brother, arrives. He sees all his brothers dead on the ground. He is heartbroken, he is parched, but he doesn't drink.
He stops. He agrees to face the voice, which turns out to be a crane standing near the water.
And the crane starts firing these heavy philosophical riddles at him.
Right, testing his morality and wisdom.
And the key question, the one that really stuck with me, is this. What is the most wonderful thing?
And Yudhishthira's answer is just profound. He says that no man, though he sees others dying all around him, believes that he himself will die.
Wow. I mean, that hits incredibly hard even today.
We all walk around acting like we are immortal.
We really do. So because he answers the riddles correctly, the crane reveals its true identity.
The crane is actually Dharma, the god of duty and cosmic order.
Dharma revives all the dead brothers. And this moment establishes Yudhishthira as the ultimate man of Dharma, the guy who follows the rules of righteousness no matter how much he is suffering.
Keep that concept of Dharma in mind, because it is the engine of the entire Gita.
Right. Oh, and one quick note on how this epic is even being told to us. The narrator is a guy named Sanjaya.
Yes, he's a minister narrating the live battle to the blind king, Dhritarashtra. Sanjaya was given the psychic power of clairvoyance just so he could see everything happening on the battlefield and describe it.
It's basically ancient live broadcasting.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's fast forward back to the battlefield. The 13-year exile is over. Negotiations have totally failed. War is the only option left.
And we are back in the chariot with Arjuna having a breakdown.
He turns to his charioteer for help. And his driver is Krishna.
Who is not just a driver. Krishna is an avatar of God.
But Arjuna doesn't fully grasp the magnitude of that yet, right?
No, he just sees his lifelong friend and mentor. He expects Krishna to say, "Hey, it's okay. War is terrible. Let's just pack it up and go home."
But Krishna's reaction is, oh, wow, it shocked me when I read it.
It is very intense.
He doesn't comfort him at all. He basically chastises him. He calls Arjuna's moral crisis scruples and fancies. He says it's just weakness.
Right, he tells him to snap out of it.
Which, to a modern listener, sounds a bit harsh, kind of like a toxic man-up speech.
It definitely sounds that way on the surface. But Huxley points out that Krishna is doing something much more radical here.
Okay, how so?
He isn't just telling Arjuna to suppress his feelings. He is telling him that his entire emotional crisis is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of reality.
And this is the first big lesson.
Yes, the metaphysical argument, you are not your body.
The concept of the Atman.
The Atman, the soul, or the eternal self. Krishna says, look, you are crying because you think you are about to kill your uncles and cousins. But you can't actually kill them.
Because the soul is indestructible.
Exactly. The text explicitly says the Atman is unborn and undying. Weapons cannot cut it, fire cannot burn it, water cannot wet it.
Krishna uses a really great analogy here. He says the body is just like a garment.
Right, like wearing a shirt.
When your clothes get worn out and old, you throw them away and put on new ones. You don't weep for the old shirt.
Death is simply the soul changing its clothes.
Okay, I conceptually get the metaphor. But practically, If I am standing there with a drawn bow, looking at my favorite uncle, it feels a little cold to say, "Don't worry, uncle, I'm just helping you change your shirt."
It is cold to the ego. It is cold to the everyday personality that loves and hates and fears.
Right.
But Krishna is speaking from the absolute perspective. If you identify solely with your physical body, you will always be a prisoner of grief and anxiety. If you identify with the Atman, you are free.
But doesn't that create a massive practical problem?
How do you mean?
Well, if the soul is eternal and this physical world is just a temporary wardrobe change, why do anything at all? Why fight a war? Why go to work on Monday? Why not just sit under a tree, meditate, and wait for it to be over?
That is exactly the question Arjuna asks Krishna. If spiritual knowledge is superior to action, why are you pushing me into this horrifying battle?
And the answer to that is the second major pillar of the text,
Karma yoga, the yoga of action.
which is probably the hardest concept for us to actually implement today.
Absolutely, because Krishna explains that you literally cannot stop acting. Even if you run away to a cave, your heart is beating, your lungs are breathing, your mind is churning.
You are part of nature.
Yes. So the question is never whether you will act, but how you will act.
And this leads to the golden rule of karma yoga, work for work's sake. The rule is you have the right to the work, but never to the fruits of the work.
It sounds so simple, but it goes against everything in our modern psychology. We live entirely for the fruits.
Right. I work to get a paycheck. I study to get an A. I go to the gym to look good.
We obsess over the outcome. And Krishna says that obsession is exactly what traps us. It causes all our anxiety.
So wait, if I just stop caring about the outcome, if I go to work and say, I don't care if this project succeeds or fails, aren't I just going to be terrible at my job?
That is a very common misunderstanding. Detachment doesn't mean laziness or doing a bad job.
Okay, clarify that for me.
It's about being non-attached. Krishna calls it holy indifference. You must act, and you must act with absolute focus and excellence, but you act as if you are merely an instrument.
Oh, I see.
Think about the anxiety you feel before a big presentation.
I know it well.
That anxiety isn't about the work itself. You know how to make slides. The anxiety is about the future result. Will my boss like it? Will I get promoted? Will I look foolish?
So the focus on the fruit is what actually drains my energy.
Exactly. The text uses the analogy of a tortoise. It says the tortoise can draw in its legs.
Right, it pulls back into its shell when distracted.
A wise person does the same with their senses. They withdraw from the objects of desire. They do the work perfectly, but they surrender the outcome completely. Action rightly renounced brings freedom, but action rightly performed also brings freedom.
That is profound, but it's also incredibly difficult because our minds are constantly pulling us toward those desires.
Which brings us to the psychology of the soul in the Gita, the three gunas.
Yes, the gunas. This felt like reading an ancient personality test.
It really is a framework for human behavior. The gunas are the three fundamental forces of nature. The text argues that everything in the physical world binds the soul to the body through these three forces.
Let's walk through them because, listener, you will definitely recognize yourself in these. The first one is sattva.
Sattva is the force of purity, light, and harmony.
Sounds like the good one.
It is the most pleasant, certainly, but it's still a trap. It binds us through a longing for happiness and a longing for knowledge.
So you get attached to feeling peaceful.
Exactly. Then there is the second guna, rajas. This is passion. It is energy, motion, fire. It binds us through a relentless thirst for action and possession.
This is basically modern hustle culture, the constant need to achieve, to buy, to conquer.
Yes. And finally, we have tamas.
Which is the opposite of rajas, right?
Very much so. Tamas is darkness, inertia, and sloth. It binds us through delusion and sleep.
The absolute inability to get off the couch.
Right. And what's fascinating is how the text applies these gunas to everyday things, like food.
The food examples are amazing. Let's look at how they categorize our diets. Sattvic food first.
Sattvic food is described as juicy, soothing, and promoting health. Fresh fruits, wholesome grains.
Very clean eating. Now, rajasic food, this one called me out personally.
Rajasic food is bitter, sour, salty, burning, and very hot. The text actually warns that it causes distemper and pain.
So my entire diet of hot sauce and black coffee is just pure rajas.
Definitely fueling that restless energy.
And then there's tamasic food.
Stale, tasteless, rotten, and leftovers.
The stuff sitting in the back of the fridge. But the goal here isn't just to eat a sattvic diet, is it?
No, the goal of understanding the gunas is to eventually transcend all three of them.
To step outside the system.
Yes, to become the witness. When you feel a burst of anger, you don't say, I am angry. You say, there's a surge of rajas in my mind right now. You watch the forces play out without identifying with them.
That level of detachment requires a massive shift in perspective, which perfectly sets up the climax of the text. Chapter 11, The Reveal.
This is where things get truly cosmic.
Arjuna has been listening to all this philosophy, and he basically says, okay, Krishna, I believe you. I understand you are the divine source, but I need to see it.
He asks to see Krishna's true universal form.
And be careful what you wish for, because it is not a peaceful, glowing vision of a man on a cloud.
It is absolute, terrifying sensory overload.
It's basically a horror movie.
The text describes Krishna as having millions of mouths and eyes. He is flaring like the fires of doomsday.
There is this incredibly visceral imagery where Arjuna looks into these fiery gullets and he sees the soldiers, the very heroes of the war who are standing on the battlefield right now.
Rushing into Krishna's mouths like moths into a flame.
He sees their heads getting crushed between these cosmic teeth. It's horrifying.
And in the midst of this terrifying vision, Krishna delivers the ultimate message. He says, I am come as time, the waster of the peoples.
I am come as time.
Yes, he is revealing the ultimate determinism of the universe. From the perspective of absolute time, the battle has already happened. The soldiers are already dead.
So Arjuna is agonizing over whether to pull the trigger, and Krishna is saying the bullet already hit the target.
Exactly. Arjuna realizes he is merely the instrument of an event that has already been decided in the cosmic sense.
You aren't the player, you are just a piece on the board.
And Arjuna is utterly terrified by this reality. He begs Krishna to stop, to turn back into his pleasant, four-armed human form.
The truth is just too vast to handle.
It is. But this vision and the philosophy surrounding it brings us back to Aldous Huxley.
Right, the Perennial Philosophy. How does Huxley connect this terrifying vision to other world religions?
Huxley breaks down the Perennial Philosophy into 4 core doctrines that are the highest common factor of all mystical traditions.
Let's go through them. Number 1.
The world of matter, everything we see and touch, is just a manifestation of a deeper divine ground.
Okay, so the physical world isn't the base reality. Number 2.
Humans can realize this divine ground by direct intuition.
Meaning you can't just read about it in a book.
Right, you have to experience it through practices like yoga or meditation.
Got it. Number 3.
Man has a double nature. We have the phenomenal ego, the part of us that likes hot sauce and worries about emails, and we have an eternal self, the Atman.
The garment versus the body wearing it, and the final doctrine.
The ultimate purpose of human life. It is to identify with the eternal self and unite with that divine ground.
And Huxley argues you find this exact same roadmap in Christianity with mystics like St. John of the Cross, in Buddhism, in Taoism, and in Sufism.
Yes, but the Gita remains one of the most systematic, beautiful statements of it.
It's an incredible text. But as we wrap up, we have to finish the actual story, because the conversation in the chariot ends and the war begins.
It does, and it's a brutal war.
The Pandavas, Arjuna's side, do eventually win.
They do win.
Yeah.
But it is not a happy ending. The destruction is immense. The victory is covered in ashes.
Which leads to the final test, the very end of the Mahabharata. Decades later, the Pandav brothers decide to renounce the world.
They begin a final journey, climbing up the Himalayas to reach heaven.
But because they are human and they have accumulated flaws and sins, they start falling. One by one, they collapse on the mountain and die.
Even Arjuna falls.
Eventually, there is only one brother left walking, Yudhishthira.
The man from the enchanted lake.
Yes, he makes it all the way to the top, but he isn't totally alone.
A stray dog has been following him up the mountain.
Just a normal, scruffy dog. Yudhishthira finally reaches the gates of heaven.
And he is greeted by the king of the gods. He is told, "Welcome, you have earned your place in paradise. Come in."
But
the dog cannot enter. No dogs allowed in heaven.
And Yudhishthira, after losing everything, after surviving the greatest war in history, looks at the gates of heaven and refuses to enter.
He says, "This dog has been loyal to me. It has looked to me for protection. I will not abandon it now just to secure my own happiness."
Which is the ultimate display of Dharma.
Exactly. And the moment he makes that choice, the dog transforms. It reveals itself to be Dharma, the god of duty. testing him one last time.
He passed the final test. Arjuna wanted to avoid action because of his emotions. Yudhishthira refused the ultimate reward because of his duty.
It's a perfect encapsulation of the text.
So if you're listening to this right now, what is the takeaway? You might not be on a chariot facing an army of elephants, but you are facing your own battles.
Life is a battlefield. You absolutely cannot avoid action.
You have to act. But the secret to finding peace in the middle of the chaos isn't trying to run away. It's stepping up and acting with total focus while completely surrendering the outcome.
Doing the work for the sake of the work.
And that leaves us with one final, incredibly provocative thought from the Gita to mull over. The concept of svadharma.
Yes. Svadharma translates to your own duty. The text states very clearly, it is better to do your own duty imperfectly than to perform another's duty well.
That is a truth bomb. How many people are out there right now performing perfectly in a career they hate, living a life that someone else expected them to live?
Getting an A+ in someone else's life.
Right. Are you fighting your own battle, or are you just a really good mercenary in someone else's war?
You have to find your own duty.
Something to think about the next time you're stuck in traffic or staring at a blank screen, wondering what you were doing it all for. That is our deep dive on the Bhagavad Gita. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.